I have a very informal presentation because I saved my formal presentation for tomorrow. So I imagine that we're all sitting together in a conference hall, and anybody that's in here has come by to chat. So I just want this to be a time to, Diane, I love to talk. So let's talk. And I have my debut, Indelible Anne, coming out in June, and it's of course about Ann Richards. I grew up in Austin when Ann was at the helm, and so I never knew a day that it wasn't possible for women to be in the Capitol building doing huge things. And I don't know that my girls or my son either know necessarily that that's the case. And so I wanted to make sure that our kiddos know the story of this incredible woman. And I feel so fortunate that Carlin Witt, who is also a native Texan, she's based in LA now, did these incredible illustrations. It was an honor to be able to write this book. I got to do some really incredible interviews, and that's probably my favorite part of, I like to talk again. So that's probably my favorite part of researching for any nonfiction project that I've done, is doing interviews. I have a couple of other books that are coming out also in the next consecutive years. So in spring of 2022, I have a book about the women Air Force service pilots who were based up in Sweetwater in the Panhandle. And I do have a little picture. Let me see if I can find a sketch. This is going to be illustrated by Brooke Smart. And here's a sketch of Dorothy, who was a great friend of my grandmother's. And actually, this is a fun story. I interviewed her for the first time when I was in 8th grade for a research project at Keeling Junior High, back when it was just a 7th and 8th grade junior high. And this was my Rights and Revolutions project about the WASP. And I got to go down to San Antonio and interview Dorothy. And then 20 years later, I was trying to write a nonfiction draft for an intensive that I was going to, and I could not think of what to write about. And so I thought and thought, what are the things that I'm passionate about? What are the things that I've loved to learn about in my life? And what did I like to read about when I was a kid? And I could not get enough books about women pilots when I was a kid, because I really wanted to be a pilot. And so I thought, this is a story also that not many people know. There are some great books about WASP out, but there just aren't enough. And so Dorothy is still alive. She's 98, and I got to go down to San Antonio again and interview her. And that was great fun. And then I got to go out to Sweetwater for the reunion that they do. And they have a museum out there. And I got to be a part of that celebration. And then I wrote the book, and it is coming out with a Viking. So that is exciting. It's going to be called Dorothy the Brave. I believe that title's still kind of up in the air. But a couple of years ago, the children of the WASP went to the legislature and made sure that the WASP was included in the Texas curriculum for public school children. So that is an important thing, in this book will be another great resource as we move through Texas history in 4th grade. And then I have a third book that is due out in 2023 in the fall. The illustrator will be E.B. Goodale. And this book is not a Texas-based book, but let me see if I can share you a picture. I on a whim and jumped on an airplane to Paris right after the cathedral burned at Notre Dame, and I got to interview the beekeepers who kept the bees on top of the cathedral. And they took me beekeeping all over Paris, and we did rooftop beekeeping. I'm a beekeeper, so I brought my veil and my gloves, and at first they told me, no, we don't have time. I actually just found the names by reading other news articles, and then I looked up online and found their email addresses and reached out. I was on the way over on the airplane writing these emails, and they said, no, thank you, we're busy. And I said, no, really, it's no problem. I'd be glad to come to you. Well, we're not in Paris. we're in a small town called Book right outside. I said, that's okay, I'll take an Uber. And I was a little determined, and they finally took me seriously, and then they gave me this great offer. And so I got to write The Bees of Notre Dame, and E.B. Goodale, who did Windows and Under the Lilacs, she's going to be illustrating this, which feels like a dream. And that is a lyrical book about bees and urban beekeeping and resilience of people and animals and nature. And so that's exciting too. So if you have any questions about all those projects, I would love to talk about them. I feel like I talked more than I planned to, but I would love to discuss any of this with anyone who's interested.
Well, as I say, I like to talk. Am I unmuted? Yes. Okay, I love to talk. So yay, Ann Richards. Wow, good girl. That picture of her on the motorcycle, and remember when she was running?
Yes.
I love that picture of her, and she did a lot for Texas.
So let me show you. This is one of my favorite parts of the back matter. I got to actually work with the State Library and Archives Commission and the Dolph Briscoe Center, and I got to pick out the pictures in the back. And so I have this picture of Anne on her bike when she is 12. Wow. And then I got to put this picture of Anne on her bike when she was 60. I got to get it in the back. So that was so fun. I love to hear you talk about that, because I also will never forget that photo shoot that she did for Texas Monthly.
And how powerful. And I don't know if people know it, but the reason I did the little girl in the moon first was because there was a actual study done where some librarians went and pulled out books, and every time it had a boy's voice in the school library, they pulled it out. And overall throughout the US, the average was 5% voice in of girls' books in children's libraries at school. And so when you mentioned that about how important Ann Richards was in your life as a woman being represented, and then your children today, I thought that was very powerful. You could give a speech just on that alone. So yeah, kudos for you.
Thank you. It's a dream, right? This is living the dream, to be able to do this kind of work and to meet with children. I can't wait till we get to do it in person.
Yes.
I got to do some beekeeping. I used to do beekeeping presentations with school kids, and that was really great fun. So I can't wait to go into schools and talk about these books. But just to be able to share stories and history and nonfiction and fiction alike, it's just, I'm grateful to all of the librarians out there and the teachers who are doing the big work, and just to be able to be kind of tangentially related to that endeavor feels really special.
Right. Well, I hope you do a book about the lady beekeeper or something, because it's really cool beekeeping.
Well, and actually the woman who took me all across the rooftops of Paris, she is a character in the book. Her name is Sabine, and she is the one who really does most of the beekeeping for those colonies on Notre Dame. And so she is one of those characters in the book. And yeah.
I went to a beekeeping place in Greece, and so sometime I'll have to share some stuff and connect you with some people in Greece that are beekeepers.
I would love that. That was such an interesting story to write, because when I started writing it, it took me a million different, at least 5 versions, like completely different reimaginings. It started out as a story being told from the perspective of the cathedral, because I was trying to tell the story through time, and it's hard to do that for young audiences. So Stonewall did a very good job of using the building, the hotel, as the narrator, and I was trying to kind of emulate that, because I felt like I could then tell the story through time, but it just wasn't working, and it was driving me bananas. But then I kind of found that if I could mirror the hive, the beehive that is built on generation after generation. I mean, Notre Dame took generations to build, and of course it's being rebuilt. And so to mirror the hive, which is also built on generation after generation after generation of these bees, then to tell the kind of mirrored story of the resilience of the colony and the people of Paris. And anyway, that was how I finally ended up where I wanted to be. But
That's
anyway.
powerful.
Meghan P. Browne's book, and I'm repeating that for the recording. Meghan P. Browne's book can also be found on the bookshop, the Texas bookshop that we have, and because I've seen it out there, I saw the cover because I was very interested in getting it anyway. But also, I just wanted to say one thing about the perspective of the building, right?
Yeah.
As a character, as a narrator, because
Yes.
that's a really tough thing to do. I mean, I think that's amazing that you did that, especially the hive idea with the generations. That's cool.
Thank you. It was,
cool.
I mean, that was a labor of love, but I think with the help of a lot of friends and mentors, I'm actually at Vermont College of Fine Arts right now getting my MFA, and Jane Kurtz was my advisor when I really finished. So I wrote the first draft under Linda Urban, who has this amazing book out, Almost There and Almost Not. And she kind of helped me get everything out on paper, and then I worked through many revisions, and then finally Jane Kurtz, who has many books, but one of her most well-known is What Do They Do with All That Poo? And then she has a new one out. I don't know if it's out yet or if it just came out, but I think it's called Chickens on the Loose. Anyway, she is an incredibly lyrical mastermind, and she really helped me put the final touches on that. So I'm grateful for all of the critique partners and all of the mentors and help, for sure.
Meghan's book, I got to read it. I was fortunate to have read it, and it just, the way it reads, it's beautiful. So just a lot of rhythm, a lot of rhyme. I love it. It's not your typical, I can't believe you wrote it the way you wrote it, because it's long. There's a lot of information, but the way it flows, it's awesome.
Thank you, Alda. And you can find Alda and us tomorrow presenting at 10:15, The Hopes and Dreams of Texas, with a couple of other Texan authors.